Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about reactions in leprosy. If you're visiting my channel for the first time, my name is Dr. Namra Aziz, resident dermatology. I make a lot of educational content. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notifications. You can also follow me on Instagram at Dr. Namra Aziz. Before starting my lecture, I would briefly mention the reservoir of Mycobacterium lepra infection because I did not mention them in my previous video. The main reservoir of infection for Mycobacterium leprae is human. There is now also good evidence of the armadillo as a reservoir for human infection in the southern states of the United States of America. First of all, we should know what is a leprosy reaction. During the course of leprosy, immunologically mediated episodes of acute and subacute inflammation and exacerbation, also known as lepra reactions, may occur. These reactions are inflammatory episodes that complicate the course of Mycobacterium leprae infection. 2 points are very clear from here. 1, that these episodes are immunologically mediated, and 2, that these can be acute or subacute. Generates an important question in our mind. Can reactions occur with other Mycobacterium? The answer is yes. Other Mycobacterium such as tuberculosis, Mycobacterium ulcerans disease, and occasionally non-tuberculous Mycobacterium infections are also associated with inflammatory episodes. Before starting a topic, it's always very important to know that why we should study a topic. Why it's so important to recognize lepra reactions. Leprosy reactions can cause peripheral nerve damage, thereby contributing to disability. The early recognition of reactions is important for minimizing nerve damage. When do leprosy reactions occur? Leprosy reaction may occur before, during, or after the successful completion of multi-drug therapy, and can also occur in untreated patients. What are the types of leprosy reactions? There are 3 types of leprosy reaction. Type 1, which is also called as reversal reaction. Type 2, which is called as erythema nodosum leprosum. And type 3, which is called as Lucio's phenomena. Today I am going to talk about type 1 reaction in leprosy. Classically, 2 subtypes of type 1 reaction have been described. First subtype is called as reversal reaction, false exacerbation reaction, or upgrading reactions. And this type of reaction is reversible. Second subtype is called as downgrading or downgrading reactions, and it is associated with disease worsening. Upgrading reversal reaction occur in the patient receiving therapy, and downgrading reactions occur in the patients who do not receive therapy. Bacterial load decreases at the end of the upgrading reversal reaction. Borderline patient receiving therapy progressed to the tuberculoid phase at the end of the upgrading reversal reaction. Bacterial load increases in the patients who do not receive therapy, and the patient shifts toward lepromatous pole of the disease spectrum. This classification was historically used to classify type 1 reactions. But for now, type 1 reactions are considered as reversal reactions or upgrading reactions only. And wherever you see the other name of the type 1 reaction is only reversal reaction or upgrading reaction. Now let's talk about who gets type 1 reactions. In other words, what are the risk factors for developing type 1 reaction? The borderline forms of leprosy pose a strong risk factor for the occurrence of type 1 reaction, although a small number of the patients with polar forms of the leprosy may also experience them. Especially there are case reports of type 1 reaction with tuberculoid leprosy during treatment. If the patients with lepromatous leprosy develop type 1 reaction, then they are called as subpolar leprosy patients. I have talked about it in my first video about leprosy. Among the borderline patients, patients with a positive slit skin smear are more likely to experience a type 1 reactions. Borderline patients who have positive serology for antiphenolic glycolipid antibodies also have an increased risk of developing type 1 reactions. Older patients with an age greater than 15 years may be at the greater risk of experiencing type 1 reactions than children with leprosy. Finally, individuals who have WHO disability grades 1 or 2 at the diagnosis are also significantly more likely to have a type 1 reaction. Facial involvement is also a risk factor for developing reversal reactions. Extent of skin lesion has also been identified as an important risk factor for reversal reactions. It has been demonstrated that patients with 3 or more affected body segments are 10 times more likely to experience reversal reactions. Recent studies have also pointed towards some genetic factors which predispose the individuals for reversal reactions. There may be increased risk of type 1 reaction with vaccination, multi-drug therapy, pregnancy, purpurium, infection, stress, trauma, and oral contraceptive use. When does a patient experiences type 1 reactions? Type 1 reactions can occur at any time but are frequently seen after starting multi-drug therapy or during purpurium. Both of them can be a strong trigger factor for the improvement of cell-mediated immunity. Why would someone get reversal reactions? Reversal reactions are delayed hypersensitivity reactions that predominantly occur in borderline form of leprosy. In the patients with the risk factor for developing reversal reactions, the Mycobacterium antigen are localized within the Schwann cells. Schwann cells express Toll-like receptor 2. Macrophages have also been found in the nerves and skin of the patients experiencing type 1 reactions. When Mycobacterium leprae infection occurs, this leads to the expression of MHC class II on the surface of the cells, macrophages and Schwann cells, potentially giving rise to an antigen presentation trigger. These will then present the antigen to the T cells, which will then generate a Th1 response. Like I said before, reversal reactions are mediated by Th1 response and are delayed type of hypersensitivity. As a result of this, CD4 lymphocytes are recruited to the site where nerves and tissue is damaged by them. It is not yet known what antigens are exactly involved in reversal reactions. It has been demonstrated that macrophages can initiate the neural inflammatory process even when no Mycobacterium leprae is detected in the neural tissue. Destruction of the infected cells is mediated by cytokines such as TNF-alpha. Lesions in the reaction express pro-inflammatory cytokines such as interferon gamma, interleukin-12, and the oxygen-free radical producers inflammatory nitric oxide. Why nerve damage occurs during the reactional episode? It occurs due to increased intraneural pressure caused by nerve inflammation. Now, how will these patients present to you? A type 1 reaction is characterized by acute inflammation in the pre-existing leprosy skin lesions, nerves, or both. Skin lesions become acutely inflamed and edematous and may ulcerate. Edema of hands, feet, and face can also be a feature of the reaction, but the systemic symptoms are very unusual. Involvement of the peripheral nerves leads to sensory and motor loss. Losses often associated with marked nerve tenderness and nerve pain. A nerve abscess may rarely occur in the context of the type 1 reaction, leading to the swelling, tenderness, and associated impairment. Hypopigmented or only slightly erythematous macules become red, swollen, and form plaques, and occasionally undergo ulceration. Crops of new lesions may suddenly appear in previously clinically uninvolved skin. Now we all know that we always say that the new lesions do not form in the patients with reversal reaction. But sometimes the pre-existing lesions are so subtle that the patient starts noticing them during the reaction and presents as having new lesions. These are images of type 1 reactions in a borderline tuberculoid leprosy and borderline leprosy. Note the punched out lesions in borderline leprosy. Patients may complain of a burning, stinging sensation in the skin lesions and complain of aches and pains in the extremities or in the face. Patient also complains of loss of strength or sensory perception. They may suddenly start to drop things from their hands or stumble when walking. They also may start to develop blisters without knowing the cause. However, contrary to the patients with type 2 reactions, they are not ill. Some have remarkably few complaints. Therefore, detection may be delayed or even missed. It is important to note whether the hands and feet are sweating or having new dry areas. The appearance or an increase in the dry areas is often the first sign of an incipient reaction. Nerves may become swollen and feel thickened and are tender on palpation. The Tinel sign may become positive, that is, pressure exerted on the nerves causes a tingling sensation distally. It is important to ask the patient to close his eyes lightly and to notice a flicker or movement of an eyelid or slight gap in the closure, which may herald the further damage. It must be noticed that when a patient is asked to close his eyes firmly, such minimal changes will pass unnoticed. Talking about nerves, which nerves are most affected? The most affected nerves are the ulnar, median, posterior tibial, common fibular, radial, and facial nerves. There is a type of neuritis called as silent neuritis, which needs a little bit explanation here. Silent neuritis is defined as sensory or motor dysfunction without the appearance of cutaneous lesion from reversal reaction or ENL, and without thickening, dormancy, pain, or other neurological complaints. It is a significant problem for diagnosis, and in these cases, nerve damage is only detected via repeated sensory motor test or electromyography. How to differentiate late type 1 reaction from relapse? Type 1 reaction experienced after the completion of MDT usually occur within 3 years, but may rarely occur many years later. Late type 1 reactions can be difficult to distinguish from a leprosy reaction or reinfection. If the bacterial index of an individual has increased by 2 or more units, the individual should be diagnosed with a relapse. However, this measurement requires access to the information that may not be available. Furthermore, such an increase in bacterial index will not be observed in paucibacillary cases. In dubious cases, a 2-week course of oral steroids should improve type 1 reactions, whereas symptoms due to relapse will be unaffected. Moving on to treatment. The objective of treatment for type 1 reaction is to restore clinically normal nerve function and prevent further inflammation-mediated damage. Prompt treatment with corticosteroids and shifting the patient from 600 mg daily dose of rifampicin to monthly dose of rifampicin is very important. Mild reactions without neuritis, ulceration, or swear symptoms can be managed with supportive care. The mainstay treatment of type 1 reaction is oral corticosteroids. There is no role for topical corticosteroids or other topical immunomodulatory agents such as tacrolimus in the management of type 1 reaction. Why prompt administration of steroids is required? Nerve function impairment lasting longer than the 6 months does not respond to corticosteroid therapy. However, it can be difficult to establish the duration of nerve function impairment in clinical practice, particularly if the deterioration has been asymptomatic. Obvious question would be how much steroid should be given to the patient. The current evidence suggests that the individual should be treated with 0.5 to 1 mg per kg per day of prednisolone or equivalent. Should multi-drug therapy be continued along with the corticosteroids for the treatment of type 1 reaction? Multi-drug therapy should be started along with the appropriate type 1 reaction treatment for those individuals who present with a type 1 reaction when initial leprosy is diagnosed. Multi-drug therapy should not be stopped for those individuals who develop type 1 reaction while on the therapy. Do we need to change the dose of multi-drug therapy? Like I said before, rifampicin should be changed from daily dose to monthly dose. Now, why it is important? Daily rifampicin is a potent inducer of hepatic enzymes that may necessitate increasing the dose of concomitant medication, including corticosteroids. However, the monthly dose of rifampicin in WHO multi-drug regime does not necessitate increasing the dose of corticosteroid prescribed to the treatment of type 1 reaction or ENL. For how long corticosteroids should be continued? The prednisone dose should only be reduced following the evidence of clinical improvement. And upon reaching the dose of 20 mg per day, it should be maintained for a long period of time until there is clinical regression and complete recovery of neural function. Generally, improvement can happen within 3 months or take over 6 months. Why corticosteroids are helpful in reversal reactions? Corticosteroids change the course of reversal reactions in various ways. They reduce the intraneural and cutaneous edema, leading to quick recovery and improvement of symptoms. They also reduce post-inflammatory scarring. Their main effect is the suppression of inflammatory immune response to Mycobacterium leprae antigen in the skin and nerves, probably through the interference with the activation of immune cellular response. For these reasons, immunosuppressive doses of corticosteroids should be maintained for a long period of time. Another important question is, can the pulse therapy be given for reversal reaction? Yes, the pulse therapy can be given for reversal reactions, but it has certain indications, which include serious reversal reactions and acute or chronic cases of neuritis that have already undergone prolonged oral therapy with corticosteroids. How much dose should be given? The dose is 1 gram of endovenous methylprednisolone taken as a single dose daily for 3 days in the first week, followed by 1 gram taken as a single weekly dose for 4 consecutive weeks, followed by 1 gram taken as a single monthly dose for 4 consecutive months. In between pulse therapy cycles, a dose of 0.5 mg per kg per day of prednisone is administered. Now let's talk about agents other than corticosteroids which can be used. Cyclosporine at a starting dose of 7.5 mg per kg per day showed promise in some randomized controlled trial. Azathioprine did not have a beneficial effect compared to prednisolone in a randomized controlled trial, but azathioprine can be used as a steroid-sparing agent. There are also case reports of methotrexate being used in type 1 reaction and nerve function impairment in combination with oral corticosteroids or alone following their cessation. Can the patients be given prophylactically corticosteroids in all the multibacillary cases? Well, the answer is no. The patient should not be given corticosteroids prophylactically as it hasn't shown any benefit. What if the person's nerve function impairment isn't responding to medical treatment? Individuals with nerve function impairment that is not responding to medical therapy may benefit from the surgical nerve decompression. Is there any difference in the management of type 1 reaction in an HIV co-infected individual? Well, the answer is no. The management of the type 1 reaction in an HIV infected individual is the same as that in individuals who are not co-infected. Thank you so much for watching my video. In my next video, I'll be talking about erythema nodosum leprosum. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram at Dr. Namra Aziz.